got an app or a site or a product and you're marketing it and you need to just get the word out to more people, but you're a little downtrodden by just the grind of this because you look at sites like this and it says 10 innovative strategies, and actually it's all the same stuff: email marketing, influencer marketing, user generated content, SEO, webinars, community marketing. It's like, I'm not against this stuff. This is the blocking and tackling of just being on the internet. However, there's a whole nother class of marketing that is full of soul, that inspires and that'll put a smile on your face, in addition to being insanely effective. And so I want to get some ideas in your head and just talk through them so that when you're feeling a little down or a little uninspired, maybe you can draw from these and do something a little out of the box. So let's talk about someone who created a career around this, who, is super relevant hundreds of years later. He just had a movie made about him in the last 10 years because he's so good at marketing. And one of his big campaigns was hit this museum. He bought the museum on a budget and just had to figure out ways to sell tickets to it. And one of the commonly told stories is this one where a beggar asked him for money. Instead of just giving him money, he employed him. Except he told the beggar he had to walk around a pattern of the block, and along the way he had to lay down bricks, but then he had to pick up a brick behind him before laying down the next one. So basically he's like bent over dropping bricks around this path, around this block, and he's going in circles, and he can't talk to anyone, and he has to go through the museum. Lo and behold, there's an air of mystery. Crowds formed. They're all figuring out why is this guy doing what he's doing? Why is he going this way? They follow him into the museum. Some of them buy museum tickets. By the end of the day, the bricklayer attracted 1,000 people into the museum. Who comes up with this, bro? That's awesome. Next example, from Mischief. I would call them a creative agency. You could call them a startup. They're an eclectic group of people who just do cool stuff. For example, they paid between $30,000 and $40,000 for a Damien Hirst work of art right here. And then they cut it up into pieces, and then they sold them individually. And then once it was all empty, they sold the empty skeleton here with Damien Hirst's signature on the bottom. And all in all, they made $200,000 on it. They 5x their return, 4 or 5x their return, just by doing something interesting. Next, same group, they made an app. They made a whole app that lets you pick stocks based on your astrological sign. When they dropped it, they didn't say it was like a think piece or a joke. I don't even think they put their name behind it. They just have this page, landing page, looks legit, and then they get your data, and then they match that up with, like, for example, the incorporation date of Twitter. And apparently you're a Sagittarius, that makes them an Aries, and you guys are compatible, therefore buy a lot of money of Twitter stock. Then they made a landing page, they made an app, then they wrote a white paper explaining how they looked into quantum computing and chaos theory and blah, blah, blah. And then they decided this was the best way to model stocks. And then they took 500 examples with their sample size and said how they outperformed the S&P 500 on average just by doing this. Man, this one takes effort, a lot of effort, but it's still cool. It's still cool. Next, Spotify, modern example from this year, called Spread Beats, a campaign where they had to get the word out. I'm going to talk about this while I'm playing it. They had to get the word out to their advertisers that, hey, you can advertise video on Spotify, since Spotify is going, not just audio, but also video. And instead of just sending an email saying, hey guys, we're video now, they created a whole spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet is a video. So they made a music video into a spreadsheet, and then they sent this out to 190 of their clients. So this is just an internal campaign for the people who buy ads and put it on Spotify. And they made this whole thing that they worked on for 9 months. And then they sent it out and it went wonderfully. Here's the actual spreadsheet, animation, colors, what's happening, everything's changing. Spreadsheet transforms into a music video. There's sound playing with this actual thing, I believe. It took a lot. It took a lot of work. I can't even imagine what this took, bro. But it worked. 870% growth. I think there's 16 or 17 to 1 return on ad spend. Insane. So cool. Next, a little more down to earth. Lookalike contest. This was an idea from a guy, and he wanted to get people outside. He wanted to do something fun. Timothy Chalamet actually showed up. He had a reward. He made it fun. He wore a top hat like Willy Wonka. It's fun. It was a whole cultural thing. He's not even trying to sell anything, but he could have if he wanted to. He got a little more enterprising here with his next deal, where he met up with Crocs, and he said that he would create this Instagram page, and I can never explain this concept without smiling because it's just so ridiculous. The concept is he goes around New York and he makes 3D printed Crocs for the statues, and then he goes out to the statues and places the Crocs on the statue's feet of the mouse, of the bear, of the elephant. And then he makes a little music video for each of his creations. It almost got 500,000 people following the account. Who knows how many more people bought Crocs because of this? Who comes up with this? This is cool. Also took a lot of work. Now I'm going to show my examples here, which took less work. So if you're in the software tech space, I think these will be really actionable for you because it's just less theatrical, more down to earth. So I have this app. Before there's a wait list. And so I wanted to drum up some curiosity, but I didn't want everyone to come into the app because it wasn't ready at the time. So I have, at the time, the landing page was basically this. It was like a terminal. There's no logo. There was nothing. It was just this loading screen. And then you probably can't hear it, but in the background there's keys clicking. So it's almost like an old school keyboard is actually going. And this is written like a letter, like a naval letter. And I wrote it all myself. I spent a lot of time on the actual copy, more than the coding part. But to summarize it, it's like you're a naval officer and you've been invited to try out this new high technology piece of software that only the top 10% of people in the fleet are capable of wielding, because of the psychological burden of sustained clarity. And then at the end, I have a call to action saying apply for clearance. And the clearance page was a wait list. And I kept it open if you want to just go through it for fun. But this got some attention. This got good and bad. Some people emailed me angrily saying they didn't like this. They're like, what the hell is this? What are you even making? This is stupid, to show people a screenshot of the page. Others loved it. Especially other creators. They said it's so cool. That's it. They said this is awesome. They shared it a little bit. But it wasn't a huge success, and that's okay. So the ones I showed you before were like blockbuster mainstream news successes, but this cost me basically nothing, and in terms of time and money, and it wasn't a massive splash, and now it just lives here, and that's okay. Finally, I had a release for a new update where I went really hard on shortcuts, and instead of just saying, hey, you can have more shortcuts now in the app, I created a YouTube video for the internal testers, and here's playing now. I made this graphic retro, but in the middle is the actual app. And then I have my own hands typing on the keyboard, showing you can type real fast. Here's a demo. And then I explain how you can just throw out your mouse. Throw out your mouse. You don't need it. We got shortcuts. We're all good now. This took a couple hours to make. It was super fun, though. I was laughing along the way. This didn't go viral, but one of the users laughed along with me. It was fun. It kept me going. It gave me light. And so you know what? Even if it's a total flop, if it keeps you going and you stay motivated, that by itself could be a huge win. So think outside the box. If you have an example of something you did or that someone else did that you really liked, let me know in the comments. I'd love to check it out. And keep marketing, guys. Keep getting the word out. If you spent all the time creating something worthwhile, why would we not go the extra mile and like actually get in front of people by any means necessary? That's how I see things. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.